Do you know about a boxer so elusive, so graceful, that his opponents swung at shadows? A fighter who turned the ring into a canvas, painting masterpieces with every slip, every pivot, every counter. Pernell "Sweet Pea" Whitaker wasn't just a champion. He was a magician, a defensive wizard who made the impossible look effortless. His style wasn't about brute force. It was about precision, timing, and an almost supernatural ability to avoid punches. Whitaker didn't just win fights. He outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and outclassed his rivals, leaving them bewildered and audiences in awe. Whitaker's legacy is etched in boxing history as one of the purest practitioners of this sweet science, a term that captures the cerebral beauty of the sport. From his Olympic gold medal to world titles in 4 weight classes, his career was a masterclass in boxing intelligence. This is the story of how a kid from Norfolk, Virginia, became one of the greatest defensive fighters the world has ever seen. The sweet science. Boxing is often called the sweet science, a phrase coined in 1813 by British sports writer Piers Egan. It reflects the idea that boxing is more than just a brawl. It's a strategic battle of wits, reflexes, and technique. The sweet science is about hitting without being hit, controlling the pace, and dismantling an opponent's plan piece by piece. Few fighters embodied this philosophy like Pernell Whitaker. Whitaker's approach was rooted in defense. His footwork was like ballet, his head movement a blur. He could make a punch miss by a fraction of an inch, then counter with razor-sharp precision. His style was a throwback to the early days of scientific boxing, where agility and intelligence outweighed raw power. Watching Whitaker was like watching a chess grandmaster at work, every move calculated, every step deliberate. The rise of a boxing genius. Whitaker's journey began in Norfolk, Virginia, where he first laced up gloves at the age of 9. His amateur career was nothing short of spectacular, with over 200 wins and a gold medal at the 1984 Olympics. By the time he turned professional, he was already a polished technician, ready to take on the world. His early pro fights were a showcase of his talent. He dismantled former champions with ease, his slick style leaving opponents frustrated and fans mesmerized. In 1989, he claimed his first world title, the IBF Lightweight Championship, and soon added the WBC and WBA belts to become the undisputed lightweight king. Whitaker wasn't just winning, he was dominating, proving that defense could be just as thrilling as offense. The defensive maestro. Pernell Whitaker didn't just play defense, he orchestrated it. His mastery of the sweet science transformed boxing's defensive techniques into high art, leaving opponents swinging at air and audiences breathless. What made Whitaker's defense so extraordinary wasn't just his ability to avoid punches, it was how he weaponized evasion, turning every slip, roll, and pivot into an opportunity to strike back. Whitaker's footwork was the foundation of his genius. He glided across the canvas with the grace of a dancer, his steps so fluid and precise that he seemed to float just beyond his opponent's reach. This wasn't mere backpedaling. It was strategic positioning, a constant recalibration of angles and distance that forced his rivals to overextend, stumble, or whiff entirely. His lateral movement was hypnotic, circling opponents like a matador, always staying one step ahead of their attacks. Then there was his head movement, a thing of beauty. Whitaker didn't just duck. He flowed, his upper body swaying in rhythm with incoming punches, making him nearly untouchable. He perfected the art of the slip, tilting his head just enough to let fists whistle past his chin, often by mere centimeters. These micro-adjustments weren't just defensive maneuvers, they were setups for his counters. The moment an opponent missed, Whitaker would fire back with razor-sharp jabs or stinging left hands, punishing their mistakes with surgical precision. His defensive prowess reached its peak in his use of the shoulder roll, a technique he refined to near perfection. By tucking his chin behind his lead shoulder and rolling with punches, he deflected power shots with minimal effort, a tactic later adopted and popularized by Floyd Mayweather Jr. But Whitaker's version had its own flair. He'd often punctuate a roll with a smirk, as if to remind his foe how futile their efforts were. Beyond physical technique, Whitaker's true brilliance lay in his ring IQ. He didn't just react, he anticipated. He read opponents like an open book, studying their rhythms and exploiting their habits. If a rival favored a right hook after a jab, Whitaker would already be leaning left before the punch left their glove. This preemptive defense made him seem psychic, as if he'd scripted the fight before the bell even rang. The controversies and the classics. Whitaker's career wasn't without controversy. Two of his most famous fights, against Julio Cesar Chavez and Oscar de la Hoya, ended in disputed decisions that many felt robbed him of victory. In 1993, he faced Chavez, then undefeated and considered the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Whitaker outboxed him for 12 rounds, landing more punches and making Chavez miss repeatedly. Yet, the judges called it a draw, a decision so controversial that Sports Illustrated ran a cover with the headline, "Robbed." 4 years later, he met De La Hoya in another high-stakes clash. Once again, Whitaker's slickness and ring generalship seemed to give him the edge, but the judges awarded De La Hoya the win. These fights, though marred by questionable scoring, only solidified Whitaker's reputation as a technical genius. In contrast, his 1990 bout against Azuma Nelson was a clear showcase of his brilliance. Nelson, a feared champion, was made to look ordinary as Whitaker picked him apart with pinpoint accuracy. The judges' unanimous decision reflected Whitaker's dominance, a rare moment where his skill was rewarded without dispute. The legacy of Sweet Pea. Whitaker's influence on boxing is undeniable. His defensive mastery inspired a generation of fighters, most notably Floyd Mayweather Jr., who adopted and refined many of Whitaker's techniques. Even in retirement, Whitaker remained a respected figure, training young fighters and sharing his knowledge. Tragically, his life was cut short in 2019 when he was struck by a car in Virginia Beach. But his legacy lives on. Inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2006, Whitaker is remembered not just for his titles, but for the artistry he brought to the ring. He proved that boxing could be beautiful, that defense could be thrilling, and that the sweet science was more than just a phrase, it was a way of fighting. Pernell Whitaker was more than a champion, he was a virtuoso. His fights were lessons in boxing IQ, his style a blend of grace and grit. He didn't just win belts, he elevated the sport, showing that the sweetest victories come from the mind as much as the fists. In an era where power often overshadowed skill, Whitaker stood as a reminder of boxing's true essence. He was the master of the sweet science, a fighter who turned the ring into his stage and left an indelible mark on the sport. Long after his final bell, his brilliance continues to inspire, a testament to the timeless art of hitting without being hit. Pernell Whitaker redefined what it means to be a true master of the ring. If you enjoyed this deep dive into his legendary career, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of boxing's greatest icons. Who's your favorite defensive boxer of all time? Let us know in the comments. Turn on notifications so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.